All right, everybody, welcome back to another video here on Financial Friends. Today, I am going to be taking you through single stocks versus ETFs. Obviously, you can read the title page here, but I want to dissect a little bit more about what a single stock is versus an ETF, and we're going to dive through what, who, when, why, and how, everything related back to single stocks and ETFs. So if you are a more advanced investor, you've been following the channel for a while, this type of video might be a little repetitive for you, or it might just be something you already understand. Stick around. You might learn something new, and also stick around because you can then share this video to someone who you think it might be fit for. So definitely go ahead, share this video around. It's going to be a very educational video, a very high-level overview of single stocks versus ETFs. So enough of me talking. If you like this type of content, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and let's go ahead and dive into today's video, single stocks versus ETFs. So we're going to start with the question, what? What is a single stock? What is an ETF? So you can see here listed on the screen, a single stock is, well, a stock of a single company. This might be Target, this might be Starbucks, this could be Waste Management, it could be Walmart, it could be any company out there that is publicly traded, and it is that stock of that company. So you were exposed to Target, you were exposed to Walmart, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund, and it is a basket of many companies. So it might hold Target, Starbucks, and Waste Management all within the one ETF. Some good examples are VOO, VTI, and SCHD, and actually, if you could see here on the title screen, a single stock would be any of these companies. Obviously, I used those. And an ETF, which I have a better image of this later in the video, but could be SCHD, VOO, or VTI. Now, moving forward into who. Who should own a single stock versus who should own an ETF? Well, in actuality, any investor looking to bet on the success of a company, or an individual company rather, should probably use a single stock. If you think Target is going to do well, if you think Walmart could do well, if you think Apple could do well, Amazon can do well over the long term, over the short term, you might be using a single stock to leverage the idea that that might be good or a bad investment, depending on if you're using options and all these other types of things. But a single stock is a bet on one particular company, whether it be up, down, left, right, whatever it is. An ETF is probably for an investor looking to bet on a sector, an industry, or the stock market as a whole. You can actually invest in VTI, which is essentially, the entire United States stock market. One go, one buy, you're getting exposure to every single company within the United States for the most part, of course. You could also use VOO to invest in a segment or the top 500 companies here in the United States. You could also use sector-specific or industry-specific ETFs that invest in companies that are all within one sector or industry of the market. So, when should you use a single stock versus when should you use an ETF? Well, in general, you can use them at any point. Whether you're a beginner investor, an advanced investor, long-term investor, you're 50 years old, you're 20 years old, you're 100 years old, you can use either of these. And this is obviously from like a legality, a reality standpoint. You can use them at any point. There's no restrictions or red tape or anything like that. However, single stocks tend to carry a larger risk. The answer to why is because if you invest in a single stock and that single company does poorly, let's just pick Apple for example, my cell phone's right here. You invest in Apple and Apple does poorly over the next 5 years, then you do poorly. If you invest in a collection of 5 different companies and all of those companies do well or do bad, you do bad. If you use an ETF, you can be investing in 500 to over 4,000 companies with one investment. Now, the odds of all of those companies doing poorly over 10, 15, 20 years is slim to none. Now, of course, the majority or the higher weighted companies are going to carry, more of that ETF, and so you could be moving down while all of the big chunk of companies there at the bottom of the ETF are moving up. But nonetheless, you're grabbing a basket of funds. And so therefore, because you're exposed to 50 plus different stocks, your risk is going to be lower because if the 50th or the third goes bankrupt, you are not going bankrupt. It is just one of the companies within a basket of a bunch of other ones. Now, if Apple goes bankrupt and you're only exposed to Apple, you lose the investing game. Alrighty, next up here is why. Why should someone use a single stock versus an ETF? We've kind of indirectly discussed this already through the course of the video, but a single stock offers a larger bet on one company. If you want to leverage one particular company, Apple is set up for success. Apple's set up for failure. You might even use an option on a single company, meaning if that company goes up, you do 100x that or 20. There's all different types of options and plays you can do, even some of which is way above my head, but nonetheless, you're betting on an individual company. Now, an ETF, on the other hand, is for someone who might want to get diversity. Just like we talked about, that single purchase that exposes you to 500 to 4,000 different companies with one purchase. An ETF can grant that, and that is something that a single individual stock of a company just cannot do because you can only purchase that one company. Now, you could essentially build your own ETF by investing in 500 or 100 different companies, and that's completely realistic. But the fact is, you might want to just purchase one time rather than 100 or 500 times, whether it be from fees, stress, trying to manage all of that. An ETF is an easy way to get broad diversification with one purchase. And lastly here, how? How can you get your hands on a single stock or an ETF? Well, in reality, if you're watching this video right now, you more than likely can get your hands on one because you have access to the internet. It can be bought on most major brokerages such as Public, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, SoFi, Vanguard. The list goes on and on and on. You can just Google search best brokerages. You can do some research here on YouTube. I'll probably have a video coming out about my favorite brokerages soon, or you can use one of the ones here on the screen, Public, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or SoFi. There's actually a link down below in the description if you want to get a free stock from Public. You can go ahead and check Public out. Like I said, link down below in the description for a free stock, but any of these, you can scroll through, you can make a purchase of an ETF or a single stock. Also, quickly, before we wrap up this video, if you want to see a video on ETFs, a little bit more in-depth, particularly VOO and VTI, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the link to that is also up above. But lastly here, let's get an actual picture of a single stock and an ETF. So a single stock could be just Starbucks, just McDonald's, just 3M, just Snapchat, or just Disney. It's going to be one of these individual companies by itself. You could also buy all of them, and you would essentially form an ETF. And that ETF could also just be purchased by buying this single basket instead. So you can either buy all the companies individually, you can buy any of these companies that you might want, or you can buy just an ETF and call it a day. So that's been it for me. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you learned something new. I hope you found this video educational. If you did, share this video with a friend, post it all over your social media. Check me out on YouTube. You're already here. Hit that like button and subscribe. And also check me out on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, posting there daily. Thank you very much, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.